Welcome back to Allergic to Stupidity. My normal evening of recording didn't happen last night because I ended up spinning mad over something and didn't feel it was appropriate and it wasn't going to lead to the attitude and atmosphere I wanted on this channel. Though, yes, I've conceded before, this is my place to rant and vent and things like that. And it was an encounter with entitlement. And that some people tend to think they are above the rules. And it is just one of those that drives me right around the bend, because nobody is above the rules. Nobody's above the law. Even Her Highness, Queen Elizabeth II, very adamantly followed the rules. She was not above the rules, though she was the rule, but she wouldn't have done anything that was illegal. She didn't have to have a passport because the passport's given in her name, so it was a little redundant to give herself a passport. Besides, everybody knows the Queen. So King Charles II is now in the same boat. He doesn't need a passport because he is King Charles. However, this is a sensitive topic that people get upset about, so please hear me out. Okay? In January of 2022, out of the frustration and the anxiety and the terrifyingness of COVID-19, there was something called the Freedom Convoy that descended on Ottawa. Okay? We have in our Constitution in Canada the constitutional right to peaceful protest. Please note I said peaceful protest. And I honestly believe that's what it started out as. I honestly don't think these people went to Ottawa to cause a big hassle. I honestly believe it just simply got out of hand. And that the people who were organizing it, it got to the point that they didn't know how to get it back under control. Though, personally, as the people organizing it, all they had to do was, okay, guys, we've made our point, go home. And have gone up to each of those truckers, everybody, and said, go home. But Freedom Convoy got carried away. And it got bigger and bigger, and it was more protests all combined. And it did get to the point that the Ottawa police couldn't do anything. No matter what they tried to do, they couldn't keep them under control. These people were pissing and shitting on the war memorials, which I was absolutely livid that day when that happened. There was complete disrespect for anybody and anything in the area, and the memorial was the one that killed me. And it just became this thing completely out of control. So the Ottawa police couldn't do anything to take care of it, to get it to stop, because people were ignoring them. The Ontario province would not step in. They said that's a municipal problem. That's a federal problem because it was in front of the House of Commons, which is federal land. And so the provincial government, Doug Ford, would not do anything. He would not send, the OPP into it. So it got worse and worse, and it got to be a month-long thing with no signs of it dissipating. So the federal government stepped in, pulled the Emergency Act out, and pulled in the RCMP, demanded in the OPP, and the armed forces. And they dispensed it, okay? A lot of people weren't happy with that. I personally, thank God, finally, because nobody was listening to anybody. Nobody was being respectful. Nobody was following the rules. They all thought they were above the rules, so they could just do whatever they wanted. And having talked to people who live in the area, one of the people I know through Facebook and I went to school with, she and her partner went, we just didn't go near Ottawa because there was no way. We knew what was happening down there. Somebody I talked to a couple of weeks ago who works for the city of Ottawa and lives on the outskirts of Ottawa went, I wasn't going anywhere near it. So people have reported and been witnessed to the absolute disaster that was happening. So while people may say the Liberal government didn't have the right to do that because they're oppressing our right to voice our opinions and our right to protest. It's a peaceful protest, and it didn't stay that way. It's getting there, where I'm after, what caused me to anger. Okay, so that on the plate. Would it have been better if they had dispensed better? Yes. Would it have been better that they hadn't pushed it to the point where the federal government had to come in and step in and say, Emergency Act? Yes. Did the Supreme Court come in and say, yes, they feel that the government at the time overstepped its boundaries? Yes. Do I disagree with the Supreme Court? Yes, because something had to be done. The rules are there for a reason. You don't have to like the rules. You just have to follow them. That might be one of the reasons why I don't have behavior problems in my classroom. Okay? Because the rules are laid out at the beginning of the school year. They're explained why I have the rules. And if you don't like the rules, you can go see the principal. Okay? And I don't have behavior problems in my classroom. I have mischief, but I don't have behavior problems. All right? So that's fine. So we ended up with two people who were seen as the organizers, charged with multiple misdemeanors. And the gentleman, there was a man and a woman, and the man was charged with 9 different counts. And as an acquaintance of mine said, you take as many shots on goal as possible, then hopefully as many goals get in as possible. So did the prosecution honestly, did the Crown honestly think they were going to get all 9? Probably not. But they figured the more things they could come up with that had a basic legit, the more apt they're going to get some of those shots on goal in, which is any prosecutors are going to do. That's normal. You don't go with just one. So he got found guilty on 5 of them. Now, one of the things he was charged with, which he was found guilty of, was disregarding his bail conditions. So he was charged with these charges. The charges were laid, and to be released from jail, there were certain bail conditions, and he ignored them. So he got nailed some more. Okay, that's fine. He has since the first time he got nailed for disregarding the bail conditions, he has shut up. In fact, I'd almost forgotten he was around as far as the Freedom Convoy thing. The other one, which is the one that's just yesterday when I listened to her, I wanted to throttle, was the woman. She had the same bail conditions laid down, and one of them was, because she's from out west, she was not to come back to the province of Ontario. She also was not supposed to go onto social media and start pushing all of these things that she was pushing, all these conspiracy concepts, or not conspiracy concepts, but all these things that she was protesting. She was to keep quiet. She could go on social media for personal things and for family things. That was acceptable, but she couldn't be pushing those things that she was protesting. So what does she do? Later on in 2022, beginning of 2023, she shows up in downtown Toronto at a convention that is pushing everything she was complaining about. She said, well, I'm not on social media. I listened to that when I first heard the report 8 months ago, a year ago, thinking, you brat. You knew you weren't supposed to come back to Ontario. The RCMP had to escort her back to her home province. Well, I'm a Canadian. I can go wherever I want. Generally speaking, yeah. But you had conditions put on your bail that said you were not to come back to Ontario except for court appearances. And you flagrantly went against it and went, see, I'm going against this. That's like a grade 2 student. Everything relates to school. That's going, I can do what I want. No, you can't. You have restrictions. Therefore, you can't. I was like, and then she got back on social media. So she's had her hand slapped a couple more times. Then, so now she's being a good little girl and staying back in Alberta. She goes on an interview with a journalist, and he was looking at the whole picture because these court cases are coming to a draw, and the consequences are being decided and things like that. So he, as a journalist, wanted to put the whole picture together. And he went to her home He said, right, I went to my home and to talk to her, to see how the 2 years have been and all the rest of it, because it's almost 3 years now, right? It was in 2022, January 2025 is like right around the corner. She had 2 boxes out, and this is where I got so mad. 2 boxes out, look, and it was literally, I think I'm exaggerating a bit on my behavior, but oh, look at these boxes, and I have all these letters from all these people who think I'm wonderful and fantastic and who support me, and blah, blah, blah. And it stopped being, in that moment, about what she was protesting, about all the restrictions the truckers had to deal with because of COVID, because of the international border, with the U.S. saying, unless you've got vaccines, you're not coming into the U.S. Where Canada's saying the same thing. Unless you've got your vaccines, you're not coming back into Canada. This is what that protest was about. But at that interview, all the reasons that she had started the protest or helped initiate the protest were gone. It was all about how she was a victim, and look how much everybody thinks I'm wonderful and fantastic. And that's where I lost it. Not because she organized this protest. We have that right. But because it stopped being about what they were protesting, which is now long gone. And it's all about her. And then the fake tears came. Oh, I got this letter from this lady who couldn't even go and see her loved one who was dying of COVID. Well, that's got nothing to do with the federal government. That's the hospital's decision. And hospitals is a provincial issue. And it was like, you're missing it. You made it all about you at that interview, to the point I got halfway through the interview and I couldn't listen to it anymore because I couldn't take her whining and crying about how she was the victim and poor her done by me. And then took the journalist to the Tim Hortons where this all starts. And it's like, oh, I was like, no, if you're doing that for you, then you completely miss the whole point of peaceful protests. This got to be about you and how wonderful you are and how fantastic you are because you organized this thing. Well, congratulations, you organized it. You could have also told them all to go back home after a week. You could have packed up your stuff and said, we're leaving. And that would have got other people leaving. And it was slowly dispersed. But no, you decided to stay there and keep everybody going until the RCMP and the Canadian military had to step in on our own ground to break it up. So, do I have a problem with the protest? No. I have a problem with it got carried away. I got a problem with the fact that it got to the point where the Canadian government had to step in with the Emergency Act to break it up, because only with the Emergency Act would it be allowed to bring in the RCMP and federal equipment as federal support to break it up. I don't have a problem. We have the right. I protest about the drop in number of students, number of teachers we have in the province of Ontario. I scream at my MPP. I scream at the Ministry of Education. You need more teachers. You need to allow the boards of education to hire more teachers. So I have no problem with that. If you didn't want to have your vaccine, that's your choice. And as for masks, it's not a big deal, people. So anyways, that's why I didn't get on last night. I was just lividly fuming, spitting mad, and didn't really think I could present and discuss without losing it. So I decided I would calm it down and wait till this morning. So I hope everybody had a good evening last night. I missed you guys. I did lie in bed thinking, oh, maybe I should do it. I went, no, I'm not going to.
I think that's all right.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
So just, there you go. That's what I want. That's all I wanted to say. Have a good day. I think I'll pop on this evening with hopefully a cheerier thing to talk about. Something not quite so frustrating.